Hello, Internet surfers and wakeboarders. My name is Steven, and today I will be doing a tier list for the flags of Africa. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, a tier list is basically a ranking where you take a certain, set of objects like characters from a movie or something like that, and you rank them from best to worst, with S being the best and F being the worst. And today I'll be doing that with the flags of Africa. So, these aren't going to be based on any sort of objective criteria, and they're just going to be kind of based on how I feel. And so if I rank some flag that you enjoy poorly or that you don't enjoy very highly, then don't take it too seriously, because I'm just some guy on the internet. But without further ado, let's get started. So the first flag that we've got going on is Algeria. And I have to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the flag of Algeria. It's kind of relatively plain, and there's got some sort of Islamic symbolism, which is kind of interesting, but I just honestly don't really like the flag that much. I just don't think it looks very good. So I'm going to give it a D in that case. The next flag that I've got is Angola, which I feel rather similarly to as I do Algeria. However, the Angolese embassy in Canada is right across the street from my university campus, and I used to walk by it all the time in order to get shawarma. And so, because of that positive association with shawarma, I have to give it a little bit of a higher score than Algeria. The next country that is being ranked is Burkina Faso. And Burkina Faso has probably the capital city of the country is probably my favorite sounding city, which is Ouagadougou, and it's really fun to pronounce. But unfortunately, the flag doesn't quite match the country, and again, it's kind of just two colors, relatively plain symbolism in the middle. Okay, so moving on, we've got Burundi. Burundi has a little bit more of an interesting flag, and so for that reason, I think I'm going to give it a B. And yeah, there's not much else to say. It's just a little bit more interesting than average. The next country we've got is Benin, and so Benin's flag is I don't know. I find it rather lackluster. Although I like the color palette, I find that the again, it's because there's even less symbolism than all these other flags. It's just three colors in a blocky pattern. I find it hard to give it any higher ranking than a D. So I think I'm gonna have to leave it with a D. And also, these color patterns that you'll see, these colors come up often, so it's not like they pick original colors or anything like that. The next country we've got is Botswana. And Botswana, I find, as a really interesting flag, just because of the blue color that they take here, is something that you don't see very often in a lot of flags, and for that reason, I find it a very unique flag. And so, I feel like if I could, I would give it like an A minus. It's kind of on the B plus A minus side, I guess, so you would say. But yeah, I think I might give it an A because I really like this flag. I find it rather original, and it's kind of interesting. The next country we've got is the Central African Republic, or CAR for short. The Central African Republic has a very unique flag, even though it's only got one star, which we can see in a lot of other flags, and it's got kind of the same kind of color pattern. It's a very unique style, and so for that reason, I think I'm going to give it higher than a C. So I think I'm going to give it a B. However, I feel it's kind of like lacking what it needs in order to get to kind of the next step. The next country we've got is the Republic of Congo, and the reason I say the Republic of Congo is because there's two countries called Congo, and that gets kind of confusing. And unfortunately, they're next door neighbors, so it's not like you can say, oh, the one that's bordering the Congo River, because they're both bordering the Congo River, which is, I guess, where they got their name from, but it makes it harder to identify. But anyways, this is the Republic of Congo flag, and I feel like this flag does not have a huge amount going for it, honestly. Again, it's the very kind of red, green, yellow color palette that a lot of these flags have already, and they've got triangles going on, but honestly, it's not that big of a I don't find it super attractive, so I think I'm going to stick with a C. So the next country is the Democratic Republic of Congo, which, not to be confused with Congo, and compared to the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC for short, I find has a little bit more interesting elements going on. So they've got the flag, and also they accent the diagonal strip, and so I think I'm going to have to rate it one higher at a B. So the next country that we've got is the Ivory Coast. Now, if you're looking at this flag thinking, this looks a lot like the Irish flag, that's because it does look a lot like the Irish flag. And so the Irish flag just has, orange on the orange is on the right side and the green is on the left side. And so although this flag and the flag of Ireland as well are not bad flags, because this flag is so hard to distinguish from it, I think I'm gonna have to give it an E, just because of the indistinguishability factor. Even though it's not a bad flag, I just find it, you know, if your flag is supposed to be distinctive and recognizable, this is clearly failing because it's not distinctive enough. So the next flag that we've got is Cameroon, and Cameroon I find is a difficult one to rank because again it's got the very similar color pattern of you know the reds and the greens and the yellows, but I think that I feel like I want to give it a C, but looking at it compared to Burkina Faso, I like it more than Burkina Faso for sure. So I feel like I may have been a little bit too generous to Burkina Faso. So I think I'll put Cameroon here, and I think I'll actually bump down Burkina Faso because, yeah, I don't know, it just looks less good directly in comparison to it. Okay, the next flag we've got is Cabo Verde, which is Green Cape in Portuguese, and small island nation off the coast of Africa. And I actually really like this flag. It's pretty unique. It's got, you know, the star pattern going here, but it's also got you know, relatively unique color scheme that, you know, don't really see very much in other flags. Like, the only one that comes to mind is really something like Iceland. And so I think I'm going to give this one an A. I actually just really like the aesthetic of this one. So the next flag we got is Djibouti. So Djibouti is a very small nation in the Horn of Africa, and yeah, this flag has got the very common you know, triangle and then the two rectangles that, or the triangle part that you see in a lot of Arabic countries, but it's not. So I find that rather interesting, and also their color palette choice I really like. So I think I'm going to give it a B because it's unique enough that I think it deserves a B, but it's not so unique that I think I'm going to rank it any higher. So the next country that we've got is Egypt. Now, Egypt's flag is, even though Egypt is in Africa, it's very much more culturally linked to the Middle East, and so as a result, it's got the red, white, and black that a lot of these countries have, and I find it okay as a flag. It's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. So I think a C is a solid choice for it. So this next flag is actually maybe a little bit controversial, so I hope that you know, representatives of the Moroccan government are listening to this video, or watching this video rather, because this is the flag of the Sahrawi Arab Republic, which is well, basically there's an area called Western Sahara, which is, you know, on the western side of Africa, on the western side of the Sahara Desert, if you couldn't guess, which is disputed, and so Morocco claims that it belongs to them, but there's a self-declared, you know, country, the Sahrawi Arabic Republic, which I find is which has this flag, and so they control kind of the more inner part, whereas the more outer part by the ocean, Morocco controls. And so they've been fighting over this territory for 30 years. And so you can see why the inclusion of this flag in this list is a little bit maybe controversial, but I didn't make this actual, you know, selection of flags. I'm just going with it. So I didn't make the choice. I'm just rolling with it. And this flag is quite similar to a lot of Arabic flags. So it's got the notch that I was talking about earlier with Djibouti, but this is kind of a more normal color palette for these kinds of flags. And honestly, like, the flag is not that great, but it's fine. I think a D is actually a very fair choice for it. So the next flag we've got is Eritrea. So Eritrea is a small country that's next to Ethiopia, and I find this flag actually quite interesting because even though this flag is actually a rectangle, I don't know why, if it's just an optical illusion or something, but I always feel like instead of going straight here, it actually like flares out. And so in my mind, this length here is always longer than this length here. I don't know if it's just me, but it turns out it's actually a rectangle. And in some sense, that kind of disappoints me. I wish they went with a non-rectangular shape, because the only country that has a non-rectangular flag is Nepal, and I feel like somebody else should join them in that. And so I think that this one is actually quite unique, and I actually really like how it all just works together. So I think I'm going to give it an A. So the next flag that we've got is Ethiopia, which again is another country in the Horn of Africa. And even though it's quite simple, I just really like how the star is unique. There's so many countries that have stars in their flags, but this one is just, you know, drawn uniquely, and I really enjoy that about it. And so I think I'm going to give this one an A as well. Okay, the next country we've got is Gabon, and so Gabon has got a flag that's just, a simple tricolor. And I don't know, there's something about this flag that I just like. I just don't like it very much. I don't know what exactly it is because it's very simple. I just don't really like the way the colors go together. So I think I'm gonna have to give it an E. Okay, the next country we've got is Ghana, and Ghana again has a very similar color palette, but for some reason the black star really stands out more to me. And so even though I could give it a C or a D, like a lot of the other the other countries that just have a few colors or a star, I think I'm going to give this one a B. All right, the next country we've got is Gambia. So Gambia, it's got an interesting flag as well. Normally these tricolors are kind of boring, but I actually really like this accent that they've got going on with the white here. And so I'm going to give this a C, even though I feel like if it was just, the blue, the red, and the green, I think I would have given it a D. So I think I'm going to bump it up one for that. So the next country we've got here is Guinea. Guinea just doesn't have a lot going for it, and so I think I'm going to have to give it an E, honestly. It's just, I just don't really like the flag very much. What can I say? And then we've got Equatorial Guinea. So Equatorial Guinea is a little bit more interesting. I find that I really like this notch again. It's interesting how they've got kind of a blue going on for it here. So I think I'm tempted to give it kind of a little bit of an above average score. So I think I'm going to give it a B just because I like it. And then if there weren't enough Guineas already, then this is Guinea-Bissau. For some reason this flag seems a little bit cropped strangely, but maybe that's just my imagination. And I feel like a D is a very fair kind of grade because they've got a very similar color pattern to Benin, which I find really doesn't help with the distinguishability factor, but they've got the star going on, so I guess that helps that a bit. Okay, now the first flag here, this is the first flag that I'm going to give an S tier, and this is the flag of Kenya. This flag just works for me. So they've got this kind of shield of native warriors from Kenya, and I just really love the color palette choice. And I just find that the symbol is complicated enough that it really symbolic, but it isn't too complicated, if that makes sense. So the next country we've got is the Comoros, which is a set of islands off of Africa, and I'm giving this a C for now, and the reason for that is just, I find that it's kind of neat enough, but not so neat to be a B, but not better than a D. So I don't really know what to say other than that. So the next one is Liberia. Liberia again, I think is cropped a bit strangely, but this just feels kind of like a U.S. light, if you want to say. And if you know the history of Liberia, it's not surprising that they made it look like the U.S. flag, and that's because it was established by a bunch of slaves who fled from the United States. But the U.S. flag is not my favorite to begin with, but this one is not as good as the U.S. flag. Something about maybe it's just because I've been conditioned because I've seen many U.S. flags, but this one just feels like a less good version of the U.S. flag. And like I mentioned, the U.S. flag is not my favorite to begin with, so I think I'm going to give this an E. The next flag we've got is Lesotho, and I don't really know what to do with Lesotho. I think I'm going to give it a D. I think a D is a pretty reasonable grade for it. And the reason why is because they've got kind of, this tricolor, and they try to have this more interesting symbolism, but I find it just a little bit, lackluster. There's something about it that doesn't quite work for me. All right, the next flag we've got is Libya. So Libya's flag actually for a long time used to be just a plain green flag, and although this is definitely an improvement on that, I actually really like the color choices. I find that the red on black is a really high contrast, and I really enjoy that. But I don't think I'm going to give it a super high ranking, and I think I might just give it a C. And I'll have to check my recording to make sure that you can still see the whole screen. Hold on just a second. Okay, I'm back. I just cropped this so you can see a little bit more of the space, and so as I'll be expanding these rows, not everything will fit in the screen. So, but let's continue on. So the next flag we've got is Morocco, and although Morocco's only got one color with one object in it, something about it just works for me. So I think I'm going to give this one a B, because it's just a very striking flag and it's very unique, right? So that's very, very nice about it. Okay, the next flag we've got. Oops, I think I might have to adjust my screen a little bit more, actually. There you go. Okay, and so we've got Madagascar. Madagascar's flag is not really that great, in my opinion. It's actually kind of disappointing with a place that's got, you know, so much interesting wildlife and a diversity to have kind of a so generic looking flag, and so I'm going to give it a D. Okay, I'm back again, and this should be the last crop. Okay, so the next flag we got is Mali, and Mali, again, is just one of these flags that's very hard to distinguish from others. It's kind of boring as well. Yeah, and it's very easy to confuse with Guinea, and so for that reason I'm giving it an E, because it's just, yeah, it's not that great of a flag. Next flag we've got is Mauritania, which I'm going to give a D, because even though it's got, you know, just a plain green background with one symbol on it, which you could say, okay, well, why are you giving Morocco a B? And the reason why is just because I find that the Moroccan flag, the flag of Morocco, is just, you know, works better than this one. I find that this one's not super inspiring to me in any way, so I think I'm going to give it a D. The next flag you've got is from a country that I always have a hard time pronouncing for whatever reason, which is Mauritius. Mauritius, I can never pronounce it properly, but anyways, they've got a really nice flag. It's very simple. It's just, you know, 4 stripes of colors, but because you've got tricolor so often, whenever you got a flag like this that's, you know, kind of plays with the rules a little bit, I find it really enjoyable, and it's very distinctive as well. There's not very many flags that are kind of like this with more than a few stripes. Okay, the next country we've got is Malawi. And I actually find Malawi quite interesting as a flag, because they kind of flirt with the rules, kind of like this flag here, which I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce again. And the reason why is because they've got kind of the regular tricolor pattern, but then also on top of that, they're adding this really interesting sunset pattern. And so for that reason, I think I'm going to give this one a B as well, because it just really works for me. The next flag we've got is Mozambique, and Mozambique is a very unique flag because I believe it's the only flag that has a gun on it. So this is an AK-47 right over here, if you can look that closely. But unfortunately, the rest of the flag doesn't kind of match that strong presence in my opinion. And so for that reason, I think I'm gonna come on the border between a C and a D, but I think I'll stick with a C because it's good enough. Okay, the next flag we've got is Namibia, and Namibia is the Namibian flag. I'm a bit torn on, right, because it's certainly more interesting than the Congolese flag of the Republic of Congo, but for some reason I feel like I don't really want to give it a B. I don't feel like it's quite good enough. I think I'm gonna have to stick with a C for this one, even though it feels kind of wrong to put it in this category, or in the same category as this one, because I feel like the Congolese flag, I'd give it like a C minus, but this one I'd give a C plus. So I'm gonna move this lower into the ranking, and I'll move this one up because I feel like that's more appropriate to what they're actually ranked relative to each other. The next country that we've got is Niger, and that's the way you're supposed to pronounce it, because their official language is French. And I find the flag of Niger, I oftentimes confuse it with India. It kind of looks like India, but somebody forgot to fill in the details of the central wheel. And so even though it's not necessarily that bad of a flag, because it's kind of, you know, got this kind of overlap with India, as I was just talking about, I think I'm going to leave it at a D. But I think that, you know, purely based on aesthetics, I put it at a D, but the lack of distinguishability helps it. The next country we've got is Nigeria. So Nigeria, they've got a tricolor, right, like all the other ones, but actually it's not even a tricolor, my mistake. It's got 3 bands of colors, but these 2 are the same. The only thing that's kind of unique about it is the fact that this white strip here is kind of rather wide. So, but you know, it doesn't really have anything unique to me. So I think I'm gonna have to give it an E. The next flag we've got is Rwanda, and Rwanda has an actually, this is an actual tricolor, but they've got the sun symbolism here that I really just find quite pretty, and also the fact that they're kind of, I guess, whatever symbolizes the sky. I don't actually know off the top of my head what the symbolism is, but I'm sure it looks like the sky because it's got the sun and everything. It works for me, so I think I'm going to give it a B because I just like the aesthetic of it. All right, this is the flag of the Seychelles. Instantly an S for me. I find it's just, you know, it's like this flag everything about it works for me. It's got multiple colors. The fact that it's not quite, you know, not a lot of these straight lines that a lot of these other flags have got going on for it. The fact that they go diagonal, it's just like such a subtle change, but I find it just makes it so much better. And it's a very distinguishable flag. This is definitely an S tier material for me. So the next flag we've got is Sudan. So Sudan, I'm going to give it a D for the kind of the same reasons as this one, because, you know, it's got a lot of the same colors, just kind of permutated, and it doesn't have the symbolism, but to me this doesn't really do much for this flag anyway, so I think I'm going to give it the same ranking as this. The next flag we got is the flag of Sierra Leone, and Sierra Leone's flag, yeah, it just doesn't really do it for me. So yeah, what can I say? I just don't find it super interesting. Okay, the next flag we've got is Senegal. So Senegal's flag, I'm gonna have to give it a D. It's kind of like a lot of these other ones, kind of, you know, got the three colors, you know, a lot of the color patterns. Now that you see more of the flags, you can see that the green, yellow, and red is kind of all over the African flags, and I'm not entirely sure why that is, but maybe I'll look into it after I'm done recording this video. So, but again, it's, you know, more interesting than just these kind of plain ones, but not interesting enough to be anything higher. So that's what I'm gonna give it. The next flag here is Somalia. And Somalia, to me, is a bit kind of in the Morocco category, because even though objectively it's kind of a little bit of a lazy flag, it kind of seems like, you know, Japan, except make it Africa. I find that, yeah, it just works for me. And maybe I'm just a sucker for stars on plain backgrounds, because these both have it going on for them, but I don't know, something about it just works for me. So I'm going to give it a B. The next flag is South Sudan, and I'm going to give South Sudan a C, just because I find that South Sudan's flag is more interesting than Sudan's. And this is no, you know, bearing on the recent referendum. I'm not going to weigh in on my opinion of that. I just find that the flag looks better, and I actually really like this blue insignia, and I like the star in there as well. Yeah, this one also I think is cropped, because I think the star is supposed to be fully visible, but a lot of the flags seem to be strangely cropped, but oh well. The next we've got is Sao Tome and Principe, and I'm going to give it a D, because I feel like it's interesting enough to be a C, but I feel like it just doesn't quite work for me for whatever reason. And it's like they're trying to do elements that I find interesting that would be in C, but I find that the aesthetic just doesn't quite work for me, and so for that reason I'm giving it a D. The next flag that I've got is the flag of so this country used to be called Swaziland, but now they want to be called Eswatini, and I don't know how long this has been happening for. I don't know, maybe it's I just became aware of the fact that they wanted to be called Eswatini, but yeah, this flag, I feel like it's just trying too hard. It's got too many elements. It's a little bit too complex, but in a way that kind of like doesn't quite work, because it takes up the whole flag, right? Because, you know, for example, like this one here, they've got a lot of complicated stuff happening, but it's in a smaller area, whereas this is like the whole flag, and I really don't like that. And I'm honestly really tempted to give it an F, just because I feel like it doesn't work for me. The color choices is also kind of really not inspiring for me, but I think it's got just enough going on for it to keep it at an E and not go down to an F. Okay, the next flag we've got is Chad, and Chad is an instant F. And if you're wondering, well, why is it an instant F? It's just a tricolor. It's not that interesting. The problem with this flag is that this flag is like basically the exact same as Romania, and when you've got a flag for a country, you want to make sure that you can actually distinguish between the two flags of the two countries. And because Romania's flag had it first, like Chad, you need to come up with a new flag. So that's getting an instant F, because just purely based on the fact that the flag is basically the exact same as Romania. Now, that being said, even if it wasn't the same, I'd give it an E. It's not a great flag to begin with, but the fact that it's copying from somebody else is kind of really it's really problematic. The next flag we've got is Togo, and Togo, I feel like it's kind of in this, you know, very similar to Liberia, but whereas Liberia was kind of USA light, Togo is kind of like, you know, USA, but like give it a twist and make it a little bit nicer. So for that reason, I think I'm going to give it a D. And because the aesthetic is still not my favorite, but it pulls it off better than Liberia for sure. The next flag we got is Tunisia. Tunisia's actually got a relatively simple flag, but I rather like it. It's just got, you know, yeah, a red background and then, you know, some Islamic symbolism in the middle, and I just think that, you know, it's a pretty, you know, neat flag. So, or not amazing, not terrible, but, you know, C, that's fine. Okay, the next flag we've got is Tanzania, and I actually really like the flag of Tanzania. I'm going to give it an A because I find that it does the diagonal like basically better than everybody else, except for the Seychelles, because that's in a different category altogether. But I find that, you know, the color choice, the fact that they, you know, accentuate the lines, I just really like it. I just find it looks very nice. So A for Tanzania. The next flag we've got is Uganda. And Uganda's flag, I feel like it's just like a little bit too busy, you know. So it's got a rooster in here, I think, which is neat, and the fact that they keep it small is always nice, because like I talked about in Eswatini, if it takes up the whole flag, it's just kind of a little bit messy. But I find that I would be tempted to give it a B, but I find that the lines are just a little bit too frequent, whereas Mauritius kind of, you know, spaces them out enough that it's good. This one I think just goes a little bit too fast. And again, it's kind of strangely cropped, so the lines aren't even, but they should be even in the flag. So for that reason, I think I'd be tempted to give it a B, but I think I'm going to bump it down to a C. All right. Next is the flag of South Africa. Again, this is for me very much an S tier. Again, it's very simple, but it's very simple in design, but it's also extremely unique, and I really like that. Like, one of the things that all these flags have in common, they kind of, you know, have kind of, you know, baselines that are very similar to all these other flags, but they've got their own unique twist to it that makes them really nice, and they're all very distinguishable, which is also another excellent feature from a flag. So South Africa, also an S tier for me. All right, the penultimate flag that I've got here is the flag of Zambia. I find the flag of Zambia not particularly attractive, if I'm being honest. I find that the fact that this color palette here is just kind of like randomly stuck into this green background, just extremely odd. I for some reason, I never quite like it when you've got just like one plain background and then you like cut out a square. For some reason, that I find that very strange, and I don't really like it. So for example, like a lot of flags that have, you know, like the Union Jack just cut out in the corner, I find that that's kind of, you know, not very attractive to me. And so even though the colors aren't so bad and the eagle's kind of cool, yeah, I think I have to give it a D because I think it's better than an E. But for some reason, the fact that it's a D and not an E is purely based on how cool this eagle is. All right, and last but not least, we've got the flag of Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe's flag is kind of a bit in Uganda territory for me, in the sense that it feels like it's repeating too much, but also the fact that the colors all are kind of, the fact that it's repeating this gradient kind of on either side, I find is actually really interesting, and I like it more than Uganda. And so for that reason, I think I'm going to put it into a C, but I want to make sure that it's in a higher place in the C than Uganda. So anyways, that's all the flags we've got for Africa. So I'll just kind of quickly summarize. So in the S tier, I've got Kenya, Seychelles, and South Africa. In the A tier, I've got Botswana, Cabo Verde, and Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. In B, I've got Burundi, the Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Djibouti, Ghana, Equatorial Guinea, Morocco, Somalia, Mauritius, Rwanda, and Malawi. In the C tier, I've got Angola, Namibia, Cameroon, Egypt, the Gambia, Zimbabwe, Comoros, Libya, Mozambique, Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Tunisia, Uganda. In the D category, I've got Algeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, the Sahrawi Republic, Guinea-Bissau, Lesotho, Madagascar, Mauritania, Niger, Sudan. I forgot which one this is. Kind of goes to show how it's not distinct from Guinea. Sao Tome and Principe, Togo, Zambia. Then here in the E tier, we've got Ivory Coast, Gabon. Wait, this one's Guinea, and this one's Mali. Are you Guinea? Okay, for this reason, I don't even remember which flag this is, but you're getting demoted because I can't tell you apart. How am I supposed to tell these flags apart? I mean, I know they're all slightly different, but the distinguishability factor is really suffering here. But anyways, so yeah, Ivory Coast, Gabon, Liberia, Niger, Sierra Leone, Eswatini, and then yeah, here we've got I believe yeah, it must be Senegal, and then one of these is Guinea, and then the other one of this is Mali, and I can't remember which is which. I think this one's Mali, but I'm not entirely sure. And then down here we've got Chad all by himself. So get a new flag, Chad. Okay, well, that's it. Let me know if you agree, disagree, if you like it or don't like it, whatever. Okay, bye.